Do you know the term Shanghai? It's colloquial for to kidnap. But in the case of Iranian nuclear scientist Shahram Amiri, he was shanghaied in another city, Medina, Saudi Arabia. And his nabbers? Well, that's what investigative journalist Webster Tarpley is here to talk about. Mr. Tarpley, always good to see you. His nabbers in this case, his kidnappers in this case, would be?
Well, strong circumstantial case that this is a CIA kidnapping. In other words, a rendition, if you like, with the difference that they made the mistake of bringing him to the U.S., perhaps, although we don't really know anything. Again, now, this is Shahram Amiri. He's an Iranian nuclear scientist. The surface story is he goes to Saudi Arabia on a pilgrimage in June of last year, a year ago. He disappears. And at that point, nobody knows where he is. Now, in March of this year, the CIA leaks to Brian Ross of ABC News the story that Amiri defected. He got fed up with the Iranian regime. He wants to work with the U.S., and he has revealed the existence of the Qom nuclear site. In other words, uranium enrichment site that had been kept secret up to that point. And that was then announced by Obama last September. So on the surface, you'd say, well, this is a new source curveball, a new Chalabi, a guy who's giving the U.S. what they want to hear and getting paid in the process. Now, all along, the wife of Amiri, who has remained behind in Iran with his family, I think children too, she has always maintained that he was kidnapped by the CIA with the help of Saudi Arabia, and this would have been then a rendition. Now, in the last couple of days, we've got dueling videos. There's one video that came out yesterday in which we see a person purporting to be Amiri who says, and this was on Iranian national television yesterday, that he was in Medina. He was on a pilgrimage. He was kidnapped. He was drugged. He was tortured.
1 second.
He was taken.
The video you're talking about is the one on the right of your screen right now.
Okay.
And so you want to tell me a little bit more about that footage as opposed to the other footage.
On the right. So on the right, you can see what he's doing. It's a webcam. He's speaking off the cuff without knowing the language at all and just looking at it in kind of observer. It looks like the one on the right seems to be more authentic. In other words, it has the technical quality is much poorer, but he seems to be speaking more honestly. Candidly. In other words, he's off the cuff, right? Whereas in the other one, the production values are great. However, you look at him, he's shifty-eyed, and it looks like the shifty-eyed is that he's reading off a teleprompter. Therefore, it's very formal, it's very stilted, and it looks like a fake, as far as one can tell.
It's too polished, it's too manufactured for it to be actually authentic. That's the point you're driving at this point. Now, I want to go back to the part about the CIA supposedly bringing him onto U.S. land. That's a big deal in your opinion because now it sets some sort of legal problem for the United States. Go ahead and explain that to me a little bit.
Normally with a CIA rendition, you take the person involved to a black site in Poland or Lithuania, wherever it is, some country that's conniving with the U.S. Now, if he is in fact in Tucson, Arizona, which is apparently where he seems to be located, as far as we can tell, at that point, he becomes subject to U.S. law. And I would urge somebody like Human Rights Watch or one of these other organizations that get money to do these things, mobilize a lawyer, call the guy's wife in Iran, get her to testify that he's being held incommunicado in the U.S., go into U.S. federal court, get a writ of habeas corpus, and have the guy sprung, and have the guy brought out in the open where he can say what he wants.
Because the difference is if he was actually taken to one of these countries who are in cahoots with the United States, whether it's Syria or Egypt. Or Guantanamo. They can't do that.
Apparently not. But in the continental United States, you surely can, if we still have habeas corpus in any form. So they'd be doing us a favor, too, because then we'd know if there's anything left of habeas. Now, that would be for the case of the scientist. Now, the broader picture. This is obviously a duel of intelligence agencies on the eve of the likely vote in the Security Council about the Iranian sanctions, the fourth round of sanctions. What I would point to is a case that includes elements like this of such dubious quality. It is a very bad idea to be caught voting with the U.S. in the Security Council against Iran.
Why do you say that?
On the one hand, you've got this worldwide wave of resentment and indignation, which is certainly justified against the Israelis and therefore against the United States because of this attack on the aid convoy in the Mediterranean. You've also got the fact that Brazil and Turkey and really the whole group of the non-aligned, the group of 77, which are now, what, 130, 140 countries, they are very sympathetic to Iran because they don't want the permanent five telling them that they can't have peaceful nuclear energy under this question about dual use and alleged production of nuclear weapons. So I would urge countries like Russia, China to think again before they go ahead with this, because it is not going to be politically very, very wise to get caught in the embrace of the United States against Iran at this point. Mm-hmm. Especially with a case that looks so flimsy and shaky as this one.
You know, I brought this question up constantly, and most Americans are, if they were to listen to or hear this story about this kidnapping happening by the hands of the CIA and brought here to Tucson, Arizona, of this gentleman, they'd be absolutely shocked that the United States does something like this, engages in this kind of practice. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, they haven't been following the news. They haven't even been following what we've been reporting here on Russia Today, which is that if you look at what was done with him, this is the same thing as the imam in Milan back in 2003, 2004.
Right.
Same story, right? Kidnapped, drugged, tortured, held, in that case probably in Egypt, and still in Egypt. So again, if there is habeas corpus, this would be a great time to find out. Go into federal court and get rid of habeas corpus that Shahram Amiri should be allowed to be free to